Hey guys, my name's Damien and I'm the back of house guy on this channel, and I thought it might be fun to make a video about something that's near and dear to my heart, which is buying cheap crap off Alibaba. Now, Alibaba is a wholesale website, not a retail one, but in my experience, many of the shop fronts on there are just resellers, and they're perfectly happy to sell you one-off items at wholesale rates, which means you can get some absolutely banging bargains on film equipment. Now for this video, I've decided to put together a cheap Chinese-made light kit consisting of a stand, a light, and 2 lighting modifiers. The first item is this light stand. Now, on the face of it, it might look like your average black aluminium cheap light stand that you've seen on just about every student film you've ever worked on, but there are some core differences. It's thicker through the mast, it has an interchangeable head so you can put different mounts on it, and it can go up to 4.8 meters in height, which means you can poke this thing through the window of a second-story building. Now, I bought this thing so I could have like an on-location, quote-unquote, moonlight for a short film that me and Tim made a few years ago called Rear Vision, and it did the job pretty well, but there are some massive problems with it. For a start, the base is flimsy and light, and so when you put this thing up to its full 4.8 meter extension with a softbox on it, it suddenly turns into a gigantic spear with a sail attached the moment the wind picks up. I pretty much had to have someone holding onto this thing at all times when it was in operation to stop it from flying off into the bush or into someone's head. Secondly, and probably a bit worse, is the base plate, which is meant to be where my finger is right now, fell off almost immediately after I bought it. And now the entire center mast collapses to the floor whenever I push the legs out. Overall, I think this is a shoddily made, poorly conceived, unsafe piece of equipment. However, for just $28 USD, you might be in the market for something that can very cheaply put a light 5 meters in the air. I strongly don't recommend you buy it, but if you are absolutely desperate for a bit more elevation on one of your lighting kits, unfortunately, this might be the item for you. But don't buy it, seriously. Next up, we have the BK500 Mark II COB video light. Now this is a bicolor light, which means it can go from about 3000 Kelvin all the way up to about 7500. It comes with all the bells and whistles that we've come to expect from modern COB video lights. It has a range of effects functions, it has Bluetooth control over many channels, it has a fan control switch, and it has a 3-pin XLR screw-in power cable at the back here. What's wrong with it? Well, I am not a big fan of these plastic mounts on the sides of the stirrup here. The stirrup is made of metal, the body is made of metal, but these mounts are plastic. And that's a bit of a problem because A, this light is quite heavy, and B, it gets very, very hot. So I can see over time these plastic mounts wearing down and becoming brittle. Secondly, the Bowens mount at the front here is also plastic, and that's a real problem if you're hanging any big, heavy lighting modifiers off the front of it. Finally, I'm pretty sure this thing isn't putting out the same amount of brightness as the equivalent nanolight or aperture fixture. Having said all that though, I've been using this thing for about 4 months now, and I found it to be a reliable, hardy, and versatile piece of kit, especially considering it's only $80 USD. It is 5 or 6 times cheaper than the equivalent name brand fixture, and for the price point, you will not find a better value lamp anywhere. Yes, this thing has deficiencies, but you can easily overlook them in exchange for a massive bargain. Seriously, if you're an emerging filmmaker buried under $100,000 in student debt, you'd be mad not to pick one of these things up. Next up, we have this curious little unit. It was supposed to be an optical snoot, but in my opinion, it's more like a miniature spotlight, which is a big, big problem, but we'll get into that in a second. Let's start with the good. The good is that for an optical snoot, it has quite a lot of features. It comes with a pile of these little gobo plates, a pile of these plastic gel plates. It has an interchangeable front lens, which is kind of a big deal. It has a separate slot for the gobo and for an iris ring, although the iris ring was not included in the package that I bought. And it has a separate fan unit at the back here to keep the whole thing cool. So what's wrong with it? Well, there are a pile of really serious design flaws that would make this thing incredibly frustrating to use on any real film shoot. For a start, the fan, which you absolutely have to have on at all times because this thing gets blazing hot due to a lack of ventilation, needs a separate AC power socket. So you have to have a second plug running to the nearest wall outlet in order to keep this thing cool enough to run, which is a huge pain in the bum. Secondly, the focus unit at the front here where the lens is requires you to unscrew the entire lens housing and then bolt it back into place using these flimsy little screws on the side here. It constantly feels like the front lens is about to fall out and crash on the floor whenever you try and focus the gobo. Third, it came with no lens cap, no bag, and was absolutely filthy when I got it. I had to spend about half an hour carefully cleaning the glass plates on the inside before I could even think about using this thing. And lastly, and most importantly, this thing is way too heavy. It really needs a separate stirrup on either side to support the weight using a second light stand, because as it stands, pun not intended, currently, the entire weight of the unit is being held up by the Bowens mount at the front of your lighting fixture. And that is a massive problem, especially if you're using a cheaper light like the plastic front mounted one I just showed you. There is way too much weight going through the base of your Bowens mount here, and for my money, this unit is impractical and awkward to use at best. However, normally a unit like this will cost you about $400 USD. This one is $47. Yes, it is awkward and annoying and frustrating and you'll tear your hair out trying to use it, but if you're an emerging filmmaker on your first feature and you need some sort of spotlight fixture for a particular shot, this just might be the answer to your prayers. Yes, it's going to drive you absolutely insane, but at $47, maybe that's something you're willing to put up with. Lastly, we have this rather magnificent 120cm Parabolic Softbox. Now, normally a name brand version of one of these will run you about $400. A cheapie like a Godox is about $150. This bad boy is $40. And for $40, believe me, you're getting a hell of a lot of lighting modifier. I've used this on a number of shoots so far. I found the fabric to be of a reasonable quality. There is a separate scrim screen attached by Velcro at the front. The Bowens mount at the back here is metal, and it comes with these handy quick release strips for fast pack up and set down. It's a pretty basic unit for the most part, but I regard it as fairly well made and absurdly good value for the price. Again, like everything else I've shown so far in this video, it's not going to replace proper brand name equipment on real shoots. But if you're a piss poor emerging film student who's currently using a shower curtain as a diffusion screen, this is a must buy. Thanks very much for watching this video. If you found it entertaining or informative, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. The link to the shop I bought this stuff from is in the